You ever drive past a new affordable housing complex going up and think to yourself, how on earth does that get paid for? It's a great question, right? And the answer is so much more interesting than you'd probably guess. So let's dive in and really pull back the curtain on how this all works.
Okay, let's just get right to the heart of it. How is this housing paid for? Well, if you're thinking it's just a simple loan from a bank or one big check from the government, that's not even close. The reality is way more intricate and, honestly, it's pretty clever.
The best way to think about it is like putting together a really complex puzzle, or what people in the industry call a funding stack. See, a single source of money is almost never going to be enough to get one of these projects off the ground. Instead, developers have to hunt down and piece together a whole bunch of different funding sources, from the federal government, the state, even private companies, just to make the math work. So let's start building this puzzle of ours. The first, and usually the biggest pieces you look for, come from the federal government. These programs are basically the foundation that everything else gets built on.
And here are a couple of great examples. You've got the Affordable Housing Program, or AHP. That's a pretty broad tool for helping low to moderate income families. But then things get really specific. Check out the USDA's Section 514 and 516 programs. These are loans and grants designed to build housing specifically for farm workers. So you see, each program is like its own unique puzzle piece, designed for a very specific purpose.
Now, here's a term you're going to hear a lot, so it's super important. AMI. That stands for Area Median Income. This is the magic number, the benchmark that decides who actually qualifies for this housing. For example, a project might be for families earning 80% of the AMI or less, with some units set aside for folks who are way down at 50% or even lower. It's a system's way of making sure the help goes to the people who truly need it.
Okay, so if federal loans and grants are the foundation of our puzzle, then tax credits, well, they're the cornerstones. This is a brilliant bit of financial wizardry that pulls private companies and their money into the game.
Here's how it works. The government offers something called a low-income housing tax credit. A big corporation, say a bank or an insurance company, can buy this credit from a developer building an affordable housing project. The corporation gets a dollar-for-dollar reduction on its tax bill, which is huge for them, and the developer gets a massive infusion of cash to actually build the thing. It's a total win-win that's responsible for funding tens of thousands of affordable homes.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Not all tax credits are created equal. You have the 9% tax credit, which brings in a ton of money for a project. But getting it, it's like winning the lottery. It's awarded only twice a year, and it is fiercely competitive. Then you have the 4% credit. It provides less cash, but it's much easier to get because it's tied to other things like tax-exempt bonds. This means developers have to make a huge strategic bet. Do they go for the jackpot or the more reliable option? And listen, this is no short-term arrangement. When a developer takes this tax credit money, they are signing up for a massive commitment. They're legally required to keep those apartments affordable and in good condition for 55 years. That's a promise that spans generations. All right, let's add the next layer to our puzzle. We've got the federal foundation and the tax credit cornerstones. Now we get to the state level. We're going to use California as an example here because they have one of the most developed toolkits out there. You can really see how a state creates these super specialized pieces to fill in all the little funding gaps.
And this is where it gets incredibly specific. I mean, check this out. Let's say a community needs permanent housing for folks experiencing homelessness. Boom, there's a program for that. It's called HomeKey Plus. What if those people are also dealing with mental health challenges? Well, there's a separate program for that. No Place Like Home. Need housing for farm workers? There's a grant for that. There are even programs that link housing to high-cost healthcare users to try and lower the strain on the whole system. Each program is a very precise tool for a very specific problem. The state's puzzle pieces aren't just about who lives in the housing, but where it gets built. The big idea is to build smarter communities. So you've got grants for building in existing neighborhoods to avoid urban sprawl. You've got the Transit-Oriented Development Program, TOD for short, which does exactly what it sounds like. It helps fund projects built right next to a bus or train station, making it way easier for people to get around without a car. Some programs even pair housing with transportation projects specifically to cut down on greenhouse gases. Pretty smart, right?
And then you have the big ones, like the Multifamily Housing Program, or MHP. You can think of this as one of the state's main engines for funding new construction. But because it's so useful and can serve a wide range of needs, the competition for it is absolutely insane.
To even stand a chance, projects usually have to promise to serve people with extremely low incomes.
Okay, so we've looked at the federal pieces, the tax credit cornerstones, and all those specialized state tools. Now, let's step back and see what it looks like when you put the whole puzzle together. This is how that funding stack really comes to life. It starts with identifying a need. Maybe it's housing for seniors near a transit stop. The developer will go after a big foundational piece, like those super competitive 9% tax credits. If they get it, and that's a big if, they then start layering on other state and local programs to fill in all the remaining financial gaps. It's only when that full stack is complete, when every dollar is accounted for, that they can finally break ground.
This quote from one of the sources really says it all, especially when talking about those 9% tax credits. The competition is so fierce that it often comes down to a tiebreaker to decide who wins. And what's the tiebreaker? It's usually the project that has already managed to piece together the most funding from other public sources. Basically, the system rewards the people who are the best at solving the puzzle.
So when you look at the whole picture, yeah, it's incredibly complex. There's no denying that. But it's a complexity with a purpose. It creates this highly tailored system that can respond to an amazing variety of needs. Everything from housing for homeless vets to building sustainable communities for young families. Every single piece of that puzzle has a specific job to do.
Which brings us to a final, really important question to think about. Is this incredibly intricate financial puzzle a brilliant way to fund all of our diverse housing needs? Or has it become an unnecessary obstacle, a bureaucratic maze that actually makes it harder to build the homes we so desperately need as fast as we need them? It's definitely something to chew on.